Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with the FIA Manufacturers Round at Bathurst, driving the Group 4 car. So qualifying in this round didn't go particularly well. Starting from P9, this was I think the first race that I did at the track. It was probably the most fun race, starting from P9, driving the Cayman as you can see there. We're starting on the medium tyres. You were allowed to drive either the mediums or hard tyres in this race. I elected to go for the medium tyres and actually go for a pit stop. It was actually the incorrect strategy for the Cayman. The fastest way to do this was probably, due to traffic, it was probably a good idea to put the hards on and just do the no stopper. You can see straight away after the start though, having a little look around the outside of the Dodge Viper, but not able to go for the move. Had to back out and just tuck back into that slipstream, but you can see a lot of cars battling the way. The big gap developed between the top three behind them to P4 and 5. Seems to be a good few second gap developed there. Maybe the start in the way the rolling start initiates, there was maybe a little bit of a slowdown for one of the cars, but trying to work our way up the hill now at Bathurst into the mountain and trying to stay with the faster cars. This is where the Cayman, on the uphill section which is flat out, the Cayman wasn't particularly strong. You did tend to lose a little bit of time trying to get on the power, so I was just trying to stay in the slipstream, but then through the real fast corners, that's where the Cayman's going to come back into itself and gain on some of the other cars. And on the downhill section, if you hooked it up, it was actually reasonably fast on the downhill section, but then we've got the back straight where we're going to probably lose a bit of time unless we can stay in the slipstream with that Dodge Viper, as you can see, working our way down the hill into the twisty section. Really tricky section at Bathurst as we try and get on the power as early as possible into the slipstream of the Dodge Viper. Just about in the slipstream, as we've got a very fast car behind. You can see we've got the Mustang behind us, one of the fastest Group 4 cars, so I needed to make sure I was in the slipstream to make sure that I could actually defend going into probably the main overtaking spot on this track. This is the area where you're going to see most of the overtakes take place. As you can see, the BMW actually having to go defensive against the Viper, and the Viper is actually going around the outside and has made that move. However, it ran a little bit wide there, and I'm going to actually try and take advantage of this situation, going down the left-hand side of the Dodge Viper and making a move to see if I can get myself up one position, while the Mustang behind also goes for a move as we go into the corner, and we make that move nicely, putting ourselves up one place from the start. So now we've got to try and get into the slipstream of that BMW to help protect this position now as we work up the long straight after turn 1. You can see this is another place where pretty much the main two overtaking places are the end of this straight and the end of the back straight. That's where the two places you're going to get most overtaking done at Bathurst. As driving on board now, we're going to run the footage from on board rather than the bumper cam, because obviously the stream was ran on the bumper cam, so you can check that out, the proper live gameplay, if you want to go and check the live gameplay out. You can see a little bit of a twitchy moment now on the rear as we go through turn 2. The rear just stepped out a little bit, managed to hold it, and now we're just going to try and follow this BMW through the twisty section. The BMW a little bit more powerful than the Cayman, but not by much. The Cayman's actually a fairly strong car in terms of keeping up with the BMW. The BMW is a little bit faster, but it's not massively fast. It's not as fast as a lot of other cars like the Aston Martin and stuff. So we're actually able to stay in the slipstream, and we're actually going to be a little bit faster through the fast corners. You can see looks like the BMW is really struggling through there, as we're really on the back of the BMW now, going on the downhill section and just trying to look for a way past. It's really tricky to try and make a way, make any sort of move on this downhill section. So the best thing you can do is just hold back, sit in the slipstream, and try and save your move for the back straight. And you've also got to try and time it well, because you don't want to be too close on the downhill section. You want to make sure you're about 4 or 5 tenths back, so that you can actually pick the slipstream up and then actually go past them with some speed. You don't want to be right on the rear of them, because then when you pull out the slipstream, you tend to not have enough speed, and the Cayman would actually lose a bit anyway as soon as I pulled out the slipstream. As you can see now, this was pretty much perfectly judged now in terms of slipstream. Pulling out to the left hand side, that gives me the inside line into the left hand corner, braking as late as I can, nice and early on the apex, giving the BMW some space, and that's another nice clean move done to put myself into P7 in this race. So not a bad start considering qualifying really didn't go that well for me. I didn't really do much practice for Bathurst. I should have probably done a little bit more. We did a bit on stream, but I didn't really go into the time trial and push it that hard. I could have pushed it a bit more than what I did. Maybe I should have spent a bit more time practicing and trying to get myself up to speed in terms of qualifying, because qualifying seems to be the one area where I'm struggling a little bit with the TGT compared to the T500, and that's just probably being more comfortable with the old, like obviously I was really comfortable with the T500. I've just got to get fully used to the TGT. We're definitely doing better, but I think once we're fully used to it, we'll be definitely working our way up the grid a bit in qualifying. As you can see, going through turn 2 and just trying to make sure I try and hold off the BMW really now, because after this corner now, the tight left-hander, he's going to probably gain a little bit of time in terms of the power zone. So I need to try and get in the slipstream of the other Porsche in front of me to try and counter that and give myself a little bit of a speed boost. You can see he's actually gaining in the mirror there. You can see it in the bottom right hand corner on that replay camera as well. He's actually starting to gain. He's getting very close to the rear bumper, but this isn't really an overtaking chance for any car. We actually have a slight advantage through this section. This is the corner where the Porsche was really good. You can see actually extending that lead through there. And then on the downhill section, you have to be very cautious on this downhill section, trying to make sure you brake nice and early and not carrying too much speed. If you carry too much speed, you run the risk of just sliding the front tyres and losing a lot of time through the lap if you do that. So now onto the back straight. Can we get ourselves into that slipstream of P6 and see if we can gain another position now? As I actually made a mistake on this race. I think I would have been better going on the no stop strategy, and that was probably the fastest way, because with the way people are doing it, if you pitted, you tended to get overtaken by a lot of cars, and it was really hard for the Cayman to overtake. So it would have possibly been better for me to do the no stop strategy or pit on this lap now at the end of lap 3. However, I was just totally not really looking at what was going on, and I think what threw me at this point was the BMW having a look behind me, and really I should have just started in the pits here now and went for the undercut over some drivers, but I totally didn't even think about it. I don't even think at the point of, if you go to the live stream, you might see that I didn't even realise that I'd done it until lap 4, and then I realised that I'd gone over the midway split, the undercut way of doing it, which is the best way to do this, because it's only a 7-lap race. The tyres were good to last about 5 laps, so you might as well pit lap 3 and then have the better tyres for 4 laps at the end. However, I did it the wrong way, totally just a bit forgetful with the laps. But we're still up to P5 now, and we're trying to gain on P4. And another thing that I possibly could have done with this race, which I did say at the time, is possibly could have gone for a no stopper, because even though the mediums were wearing quite hard in the practice session, the mediums were obviously they didn't last that well, but you could burn fuel at the start, so you had more time to get rid of some of your fuel, which made the tyres wear a little bit better. It wasn't a massive amount of fuel, but it did seem to make a difference. As you can see now, we're 3.5, pretty much halfway through the race now, and the tyres don't actually look that bad. I wasn't paying attention during the live stream. I was just obviously too focused on racing the cars in front of me and trying to go on the strategy that I thought was going to be the best. Maybe at this point I should have just stayed out and tried to stay with the Cayman in front of me that was on the hard tyre, because the tyre wear looks fairly good. And I think as we go in the pits, you can see that considering we're well over halfway through the race, would have only had 3 laps to go, I probably could have just stayed out and possibly picked up a podium by doing that, because all the cars ahead are going to pit except for the Porsche in front of me. So there was probably a chance to stay, because I was actually getting into the slipstream of the Porsche on the hard tyres in front of me. So if I could have just stayed on that slipstream, it might have helped me out, and maybe I would have gained a lot more time than going on the strategy that I'm going to do now. You see, coming up to the end of lap 4, and we're going to pit now, and this is why at the point of racing I wasn't really looking at the tyre wear, but looking at the tyre wear, considering we've done 4 out of these 7 laps, I think that these mediums could have done it all the way to the end with obviously the fuel that we've burnt at the start, and we drove quite smoothly. We hadn't had any errors, we weren't sliding the tyres around, and I think I'd actually looked after the tyres really well, and I think they would have done it. So maybe I should have tried that at this race. I think it was a possibility. I think that it would have been I think I would have been faster doing that than actually pitting and putting the new tyres on, because you actually lose about 12, 13, 14 seconds by doing this. And I would have had the slipstream of the other Porsche, so all I would have had to do is pretty much stay in that slipstream for a few laps and just use the advantage of his extra grip on the tyres to drag me up the straights, and then I might have lost time on the final lap, but it would have been interesting. But maybe next time this combination, a similar type of race to this comes up, we'll know that strategy and we can try that out next time. But you can see there, Nisman behind me did pit on lap 3, I think it was, and doing the undercutters. I'm now on the fresher tyres though, so I should be able to hold the other Porsche off if I can just get in the slipstream of another car in front of me. So I'm trying to push quite hard on this outlap, trying to keep it smooth as possible. Obviously the outlap is always a bit tricky when you're coming out the pits, because you've got a little bit more grip, and sometimes you go a little bit beyond that grip and push too hard, and you can end up making mistakes. So trying to keep it smooth, but trying to push really hard at the same time. So if I can get in the slipstream with the driver in front of me, that will be a massive boost, because I need the slipstream for the back straight to help me out. But going down through these corners, you can see pushing quite hard. And then on the downhill section now, slightly braking too late. You can see going in there very aggressive, and I think I understeered massively there. You can see massive amount of understeer. I nearly left the door open for this man to get past, and luckily I managed to save it somehow, not lose too much time to the driver in front of me. But we definitely lost a bit of time, and now this is going to put me at risk on the downhill section. But managed to get on the power quite nicely there as we work our way down the long straight and trying to pick up the slipstream to see if we can hold on to this position that we're in now. It looks like Nisman's going to be able to make a move down the straight. Is he going to go for it, or is he just going to hang back? Let's just have a little look now as he's picking up that slipstream. I go down to the left hand side to go defensive, so that if he tries to overtake, he's going to have to go the long way round. Brake as late as possible and actually hold on to that position now. And we actually got really close to Mustang. Mustang looks like he's actually outbraked himself into that corner. Now this is going to give him the opportunity for an overtake. We're going to fake it down the right and then tuck under on the inside and go for a late brake on the inside. We get that move done. We're on the inside, up the curve. Both run really wide there, and that was a nice move, nice and clean, and got myself up a position. And he actually lost out, the Ford actually lost out another position to this man who tried to get the undercut on myself. We're both going to go around this turn 1 side by side. Great racing together there. I take the wider line, obviously with better exit speed, and now we're working our way up the hill, and this man's picking that slipstream back up as we work our way up the long straight now into turn 2. We've got 4 cars pretty much going up the hill together here now, 2 Porsches and then 2 cars that are a little bit faster down the straight. I'm going to go on the right hand side, and this man also on the right hand side, and trying to take that tighter line, and both of us actually get through that corner ahead of the other 2 cars. So that worked out for both of us there, up another position. And now we've got to try and attack some of these other drivers that are on the no stop strategy, or the drivers that also I think would have pitted on lap 3 and gained quite a big advantage. I think it was about 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds that you gained by pitting that lap earlier and having the fresher tyres. So it's going to be hard work now. We've only got 2 laps to go, and this is why I really think that because obviously as the fuel would have been wearing down, I think that the tyres would have lasted it all the way to the end if I stayed on the mediums. They might have been struggling on that final lap, but I still think it would have been a faster way than pitting and getting stuck in all this traffic, as you can see, working our way on the downhill section. Only into P10 now, and this shows you just how much I was in P5, and I think we would have been, you can see that Safonseca, who was in front of us, is actually in P1 in this race. So I think it's clear that we would have been able to stay with him to this point with the way the tyres were going. Maybe on the final lap we would have lost a bit of time, but you can see that he's just been overtaken now at the end of lap 6. So we possibly would have been on for a P3 or P4 in the race if we would have stayed out and then just stayed on the medium tyre. So that pretty much confirms it for myself how far up P2 is there. But now looking to see if we can just try and recover something from this race. We've got 1 lap to go. We've got cars in front that are going to be a lot slower, some on no stop strategy, some that pitted on lap 3. And now we just got to keep pushing and see if we can make up any sort of positions towards the end of this race now. We've got a fast car down the straights in front of us, and another, I think there's a few fast cars down the straight in front of us. So it's going to be hard to do it on the straights. We're going to have to really get close to the slipstream and see if we can make a move somewhere by late braking. As you can see, going through turn 1, we've got the Jag, I think that's the Jag in front of us there, one of the fastest cars down the straight on the game, you can see. So just trying to pick up some sort of slipstream. We've got a bit of a gap behind us. Actually, I think I was reading the chat at that point there and actually drove onto the grass. Lost a very small amount of time, nothing like major, and actually went through the sector there on a purple sector. So that was the fastest first sector of anyone, probably helped by the slipstream I was getting off the Jag in front of us. Obviously you will tend to get that anyway at this point of the race. We've got fresher tyres than most, and also we've got lighter fuel, so the car just gets faster and faster through the first sector on the uphill section. But now working our way up the hill, you can see the trainer cars in front of us. So this is what's frustrating. I think if I would have pitted that lap early, we would have at least picked up P5 or 4 or something like that. So I think the best strategy would have been to stay out or pit on lap 3, or just pretty much do anything that I basically the one strategy I did was the wrong strategy. But it's making an entertaining races. We've now got to try and fight our way through some cars. We've just under half a lap to go now before the end of the race, and this is getting extremely close. You can see the cars struggling in front of me. You can see the Jaguar starting to struggle now with its tyre wear. In general, the Jag is not very good on its tyres compared to the Cayman, so trying to get a nice solid exit from this final corner. But now we're going to have trouble to stay with the Jag while he's picking a slipstream up, but we're gonna get quite a big slipstream. We've seen this in qualifying recently. When you've got more than one car in front of you, the slipstream is massively enhanced. As you can see, one car there actually getting a slowdown penalty, and that's put me up into P9. Are we going to be able to make any more positions up in this final lap of the race as we come through to the final corners? The Jaguar goes in the brakes very late there. I'm going to try and brake nice and early. See a gap on the inside, very opportunistic move. Put myself up into P8, and that was a nicely done move. And now, are we going to make any other positions up in this race? As P7's having a little look to try and make a move on 5. So when we go, tries to go around the outside. I see a nice gap on the inside. He tries to close it off. There's a tiny bit of contact there as the gap was wide open. I go for the move and actually put myself into P7. So a great final lap, and actually finish that race very nicely in P7. So not a disaster of result, but a great fun race, even though we were on the slightly wrong strategy, as you can tell there. We're going to have a little look at that move. Then final 2 positions gained on that final lap as we went into the corner. You can see the Jag braked a little bit late. I think he maybe got put off by P7. I saw an opportunity, took it there nicely, put myself up 1 position, and then again I saw that the blue car in front of me was going for the move around the outside. I saw a big massive gap. It's going to slow it down for this just to show you how big the gap was. You can see a massive gap there. Took advantage of it, side by side at this point, and he turned in. I think he tried to block the move off a little bit too late, a tiny bit of contact, but I think that was fair. The move was on, and we put ourselves into P7 in the race. An absolutely brilliant end to the race, and that was a really fun race. I thoroughly enjoyed that race. I hope you did too also. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed. Make sure you click that notification button so you don't miss any future videos. I also stream as much as possible. Maybe not tonight, possibly not tonight because I'm not feeling 100%, but we will be streaming throughout the week on either iRacing or GT Sport, so make sure you check them out. Anyway, thanks again for watching. I'll be back very soon.